Good morning, everyone. Bienvenue à tout le monde. Welcome to the second day of Cyber4Energy, our webinars on cybersecurity for the energy sector. Just a few house rules for today. By default, participant microphones are inactive and they are managed by the platform manager. And of course, the camera of each participant will be disabled and only speakers will be able to activate their camera. We will have a session of question and answer. If you want to ask a question to a specific speaker, just write it down in the question module and write it down. Remember the name of the speaker to which you want to ask the question. Just to let you know that the session is recorded. At the end of the session, you will receive a survey of 1 minute time to answer to, just to let us know if you enjoy the webinar. The event is organized by 5 competitive clusters in France, 2 clusters from the energy sector, which are Capenergies and Enedis, and 3 clusters from the digital side, Image Réseau, the SES cluster, and Systematic under the Smart Energy Alliance. Our sponsors are Enedis, GARCIA, and Thales, and we have public partners, the ANSSI, we have the Investissement d'Avenir, we have institutional partners as the CSF Industrie de Sécurité et Nouveaux Systèmes Énergétiques, we have the Commission de Régulation de l'Énergie, the FNCCR, the South region of France, and we are supported by EDF and Wavestone. And also we have our press partners, Global Security Mag and Enedis. So the program for today will be focusing on cybersecurity technologies and solutions for the energy sector. We have this program for today, so we will start with a keynote speech from Thales on cybersecurity expertise at the service of the energy sector by Stanislas LYCHOLAT. And unfortunately, Emmanuel Dotaro couldn't be with us today to do the next presentation in the keynote speech. We will follow with a panel with 3 speakers. First one, Philippe MAGNABOSCO from the ANSSI about cybersecurity standardization landscape. And then we will follow up with Vincent GARCIA, who is vulnerability manager in Enedis, and who will talk about the Enedis CERT overview. And we will follow with Javal Boudada, who is CEO of Applied Risk and board member of ISAC, who will talk about reinforcement of information sharing. And then we will have a question and answer session. At 11:10, we will talk with Wavestone about their startup radar with Laure DUCOUSSO and Clément FREOUR. And we will have a presentation about a call for project, which is called Secur-IT, European project, by Marielle CAMPANELLA, who is head of the European project at the SES cluster. And at the end of the webinar, we will follow with the Cyber4Energy Awards with the pitch from the company which has been selected and the awards ceremony. Let me now give the floor to Fabienne de TOMA, who is Manager Innovation and Project at SES Cluster, who will talk to us about the keynote speech.
Hello, everybody. Happy to welcome you and to represent the SES as one of the cyber solution ecosystem located in south of France, where we have a sunny day today, like Capenergies located in south of France, and we are happy to work with. So let's focus today, as Valentina mentioned, on the technologies, innovative technologies and cybersecurity solutions dedicated for the energy sector. And we will have the pleasure to welcome at the end of the morning the winners of the Startups Challenge. So let me now introduce Stanislas LYCHOLAT, Cybersecurity Consulting in Thales Service Numériques. So I guess Stanislas will make the presentation of the keynote speech since Emmanuel Dotaro from Thales is unfortunately sick. So we cannot be with us this morning. So Stanislas, the stage is yours if you want, and we'll have the pleasure to discover the different solutions to address cyber risk in the energy sector.
Yes, hello everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Just put it in presentation. Okay. Well, it's a great pleasure for me to be with you this morning, even if we are not in Marseille, and even if Emmanuel Dotaro will not be with us, as you just said before, he caught the COVID a few days ago, so he's sick. Thank you for Cyber4Energy for the organization of this event. Well, you all know Thales, I think, as an industrial group. Inside the group, there is also a consulting firm, which is a Thales Service Numériques, where I belong, in fact. Just a quick word to start on why Thales is part of the event to address cybersecurity in the energy sector. Thales operates critical production systems in 5 main sub-markets: health, automotive, petrochemical, and FMCG, which is for fast-moving consumer goods, and of course energy. That's why we are here today. Which all those 5 incremental experience from verticals adapted to specific sectors ensure cross-fertilization and contextualization, deepening OT security, in fact. And understanding the cyber threats to industrial facilities has become essential as cyber ecosystem is proving so successful in its ability to defeat teams. So today, just switch camera. We're going first to size the challenge together in the energy sector, and then we'll focus on solutions to address the cyber risk in this energy sector. So to start, to discuss about cybersecurity in power industry, it's crucial, I think, to understand the difference between IT and OT. Both technology are differently operated, maintained, and connected, and have different vulnerability to be addressed. In high-level terms, today, industrial system infrastructure can be segregated into domains: the information technology, IT, systems required for managing data in the context of business goal, and the OT or ICS, industrial control systems, which required for controlling and monitoring the physical process and hardware of industrial automations. IT security strategy tend to focus on transmission, manipulation, storage, and protection of data, and to follow the objective of the CIA model, data confidentiality, integrity, and availability. However, for most OT systems, cybersecurity is not about data, but it's about controlling and maintaining the continuity of industrial systems. This is what distinguishes industrial cybersecurity needs from those of others, meaning that even most effective classical IT cybersecurity solutions are not appropriate for OT systems. When you see the difference between IT and OT regarding the component lifetime, in IT it's between 3 and 4 years, when on OT sides it's up to more than 30 years. The component cybersecurity maturity is said, I would say, native in the IT part, when very few components are mature in the OT. Networks are segmented in IT, where on OT it's more flat. Patching policy is regularly planned on IT side, which should be, and on OT it's mainly very specific, and even we go say that we don't touch, in fact, this part, the patching of the OT systems, and so on. And the maturity is high on the IT side regarding cybersecurity, when on the OT side is poor, but it's getting progress when we see this type of events that are put in place. I think that you've already heard those words in the OT environments, like we are using very specific property protocols that nobody knows. But in fact, security by obscurity is not an option. Plenty of free tools are available. You've also heard our systems are not connected to internet, which is wrong, of course, because you're connected to internet through a maintenance PC or USB devices, which are themselves connected to internet, and so on. So what's the digital dilemma. We have on one side an accelerated innovation, and on the other side, the need of sharing information and need trust. The power sector is in transition. Global trends are creating environments of disrupting and driving the needs for digital industrial software and services for the energy industry to become more efficient, reliable, secure, and sustainable. A smart grid platform implies the convergence of OT, the grid physical infrastructure, assets and applications, and the IT parts, the human interface that enable rapid and informed decision making. Furthermore, OT systems are more and more connected, can be managed through cloud platforms with various actors, and are not anymore isolated. Regarding the maturity in this picture, where do you think you stand? In fact, are you loaded and have an industry which is hard to transform in the energy sector, which means having a limited OT visibility, an consistent OT security ownership, a localized OT security governance, isolated OT systems and teams, inaccurate asset inventory, and unquantified risk exposure? Or you think you're more mature in this picture? But it's a long journey before reaching the left side, but it's possible applying the right choices with the right solution. And that's where we're going to focus today. When we talk about solutions, we talk about cybersecurity expertise, we talk about security products and systems, and also MSSP managed security service providers. So for start, regarding the OT cybersecurity solutions applied to the energy sector, there are different phases requiring different type of expertise, in fact. I will use the NIST framework to illustrate what needs to be done at each step. Regarding the identify parts, you have to know your systems. That's the beginning, the start. Platforms are very you need to perform a very detailed asset inventory, identify legacy systems and safety functions, formalize associated constraints and process criticity, use system testing tools as Cyber Range, as we use in Thales. I will perform regular system audit and campaigns like penetration testing or rank teaming. You also need to learn about threats and vulnerabilities with performing risk analysis, using cyber threat intelligence service for prioritizing the threats to be taken into account according to the internal parameters. You need also to have an integrated vision of the security in IT, OT, IoT devices and systems, taking into account the special features of those systems, considering the articulation of these systems according to their particularities, difficulty to patch ICS systems, for example, and have a bottom-up approach in the vision of security from the product to the system to avoid compromise by design. On the protect side, you need to implement defense in depth. The objective is to reduce the attack surface when the vulnerability can be fixed by patch due to industrial vulnerability or safety contexts. Sometimes patch is not possible on ICS, just like I said before. And concept is to define and implement numbers of technical cumulative measures and remediation actions at the periphery of the systems, combined with organizational and procedural ones. You need also to upgrade the supply chain, of course, develop a constructive dialogue on cybersecurity with suppliers and partners, perform audit on critical systems used and or provided by suppliers, and clearly define the due diligence of suppliers' liabilities concerning cybersecurity. On the other part, regarding the detection, you need to acquire detection capabilities like IDS, intrusion detection systems, honeypot, or deception technologies. You need to put in place event and alarm log management, enabling monitoring and system event generation function if the equipment and software allow it, such as a syslog or SNMP or within Windows event or whatever. Limit to the relevant events and organize their storage, volume and storage life, and centralize logs and generate alerts for certain events for event sequences. On the response side, when you will have to respond to an attack, you better have put in place an IT/OT crisis management where governance, process and tools are defined, and perform exercise, tabletop exercise or raid team to train before facing a real attack and crisis. Also, you should better have contract before with a first incident responder before the attack comes or occur. And at the end, on the recover side, of course, you need to have put in place ICS/OT business continuity or disaster recovery plan. And in order to back up and restore, define a backup policy, including what data needs to be backed up to meet user needs, and rebuild an installation or meet regulatory requirements. And perform, of course, regulatory periodic verification of backup data by restoring parts of them. At each step, in fact, or level, you'll need to work with experts, and your security team can't address all the topics at the same time and may not have all the expertise which are required. I will now focus on two solutions, one regarding the monitoring of the security, regarding the converged IT/OT SOC, and one regarding how to train your security teams through the innovative solutions. So today, with smart grid, the attack surface have never been so wide. We have multiple connections inside the enterprise between IT and OT, outside with suppliers, with IoT, with cloud platforms. Furthermore, attacks are more complex and become a geopolitical topic today. That means that you must make evolve your means of prevention and detection of security events, and you have to have also an holistic view, taking into account all IT, OT, digital systems, services, which are maybe also black box for you when you consume this type of services. That's why we consider that the converged IT/OT SOC is the backbone of the cyber resilience. And this SOC can be on-premise, or fully externalized, or hybrid. It can be fully managed by your MSSP. That can be in some cases certified, like in France, by the ANSSI, PEDIS. And it can also be managed by your team on-premise. We could think it's easy to build an IT/OT SOC, but if IT SOCs are widely deployed and mastered today, it's not the case for OT SOC. In theory, you think that the OT SOC architecture is well structured, segregated, standardized, scalable, and secure. But in practice, it shows that it's absolutely not the truth. When you see the practice, in fact, of the deployment of the SOC, you have an ad hoc architecture from site to sites. You don't have a scalable approach. You have both, in fact, greenfield and brownfield experience needed, and you need to arbitrate, as I was just saying before, between the MSSP and an on-premise SOC solution. In conclusion, there is a gap between the theory and the practice, building IT/OT SOC, because it is custom-made and must also be performed by experts. Once you converge IT and OT SOC, you will also need finally energy sector specific supports, from system integration to incident response. Experts are needed to talk the same sector language as your team. attack playbook adapted to energy sector, which means specific IT/OT correlated playbook, and continuous R&D improvement to adapt to the threats. And of course, you'll need also innovative log collection to develop specific collectors extracting the information from the equipment themselves, IT, OT, or IoT. Again, it's about cooperation, in fact, between internal and external players. Another important aspect, as was said yesterday, is the training of the security teams in the energy sector environment. So I'm going to talk also about this solution, which is the digital twins. The digital twins, in fact, is a virtual representation that serve as the real-time digital counterpart of physical objects. The objective is to perform cybersecurity attack and mitigation solution on an industrial control system. We will execute, in fact, a range of attacks on ICS network, like DDoS attack, phishing, ransomware propagation. And at the same time, ICS attackers and defenders will play on this digital twin, and there will be some observers teams toward them. This type of training can, of course, not be done on real critical infrastructure. That's why we have developed this, those digital twins. And it's also a way to identify vulnerability on those critical systems. Just to conclude regarding the cybersecurity posture and maturity in the energy sector, it's a long way to go from the aware to a resilient posture, going through the different steps. So I would say, do it step by steps, do it with experts, with products and services which are adapted to your energy sector and your specific context. And I'm finished, I'm over with it, as Emmanuel is not with us today.
Thanks a lot, Stanislas, for your presentation. And yes, we do understand that Emmanuel is sick with the COVID and cannot present this morning. So we have some more time for the questions. I ask the participants who maybe join us later that you can write a question, you know, in the module questions that you should see on your menu. Go to webinar menu and you can write it, and we can ask to Stanislas any question on your presentation. Maybe a short one, you know, before the next presentation, if you want, Stanislas. You discussed about several solutions, cyber strategies and approaches also that you are looking at. Maybe you have an idea about which market segment is mostly advanced in. Sorry, I didn't put my camera on, and I was asked to do it. Sorry for that. Sorry. So yeah, which market segment is mostly advanced in cyber protection and strategies, and maybe allows you to innovate in the energy sector?
Yeah. In fact, health sector is driven by regulation in the United States. So, for example, when you want to sell products which can be OT systems regarding medicals devices in US, there is the FDA, so the Food and Drug Administrations, which impose, in fact, to have cybersecurity measures which are integrated in those devices. And I think the regulation drives finally the cybersecurity. And in France, it's what is happening as well with the ANSSI and the OIV in the energy sector. And I think that today with this event, in fact, you demonstrate that the energy sector is becoming a mature sector.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you for the transition to with the next speaker, in the panel session with Philippe. So thank you very much, Stanislas. Yes, so our next speaker is indeed responsible for standardization. He is the standardization officer at ANSSI, which could be the French National Cybersecurity Agency. So Philippe MAGNABOSCO, if you are here, we would be glad to welcome you to discuss about why standardization is important and why it is not boring, as you mentioned in one of your slides. It was funny when I read it. So are you still with us, Philippe?
I am. I'm not sure you can see my face yet, but I'm about to share my webcam.
Perfect. So the stage is yours if you want for understanding why standardization is important and how is the landscape look like.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this for these introductory words. Yes, cybersecurity standardization landscape. I thought that landscapes can be depicted in a number of ways. There's a number of ways to introduce someone or an audience to a landscape. You could have a very comprehensive field map. You could have a detailed travel guide with comprehensive information about every possible landmark in the landscape. Or you could have a series of postcards. And not surprisingly, with the 20 minutes that we have, I'm going to go with the last one, which is going to be a series of postcards about the cybersecurity standardization landscape with some highlights, some focus on highlights of what cybersecurity standardization looks like. You've already said a few words about myself. I'm not going to add much more, except maybe as a warning that I'm with the French National Cybersecurity Agency, which does not have in its mandate the protection of privacy. This is an entirely different organization in France. So although in international standardization and European standardization, there is a link made between cybersecurity and privacy protection, I'm not going to talk about the last one. And I don't think that's the most relevant topic for the talks today. So I hope they will not be missing. If there are any questions, I do my best to answer them, but I'm really not a specialist of that one. Yes, I've been a standardization professional since 2004, which is a long time now, and I've supported national, European, and international standardization groups, and you have my contact details here. So are standards boring? Are they? There's many ways to approach standardization, and usually people will go with the institutional angle and present the audience with a long list of acronyms and boxes and flowcharts, and I'm going to try not to do this. Of course, I am going to do this because I have to, but that's going to be later in the presentation, and it's still going to be too much, probably. The first focus is why do standards matter? And I really want to focus on the fact that standardization is an institution of the market economy. Because markets, free markets need information to function well. If they don't have the information, suppliers and buyers cannot get along. And standards are a great way to provide this information, provide certainty to the market, and provide legal certainty even. So historically, market stakeholders come first in standardization, both from the supply side and from the demand side. And I'm very well aware that energy is not just electrotechnology, but bear with me, I'm going to focus just a little bit on electrotechnologies because it's a very good example of how standardization has come about, really, historically. Standardization has begun in the late 1880s, actually the early 1880s in electrotechnologies. The first president of the International Electrotechnical Commission was Lord Kelvin, which shows how far back that goes, because that goes back to the founding fathers of energy science, really, and it shows also the connection and the overlap with research, that there's a connection and overlap between standardization and research. And the main take from this slide maybe is that government institutions, such as mine, such as ANSSI, come later. They only come later in standardization. They later can become interested in why it matters. It really should matter first and foremost to market stakeholders. including in the energy sector. Very short word on this slide. Standards in the widest sense of the term, that is anything that is a shared reference between people, even if it's not published by an established standardization institution. As far as cybersecurity goes, we've had standards from the start, really, with cryptography. That has been great, and we have had other standards between quote signs that have been very lacking in terms of trust and cybersecurity. For instance, the SMTP protocol for mailing. So from the start, we have recognized the crucial importance of cybersecurity standards, both because they are great when they work and because they're catastrophic when they don't. So the stakes are really high, and we really need them. We do have a lot of cybersecurity standards, and we have more and more, and there's a good reason for that. We have a widening range of threats. Of course, the present situation internationally is conducive to more cyber attacks, but even before so, the cyber threat has been increasing in complexity, in range. We have a large number of exposed targets. We've heard about grid, of course. The number of connected devices grows exponentially. We've got AI as well, also a target of cyber attacks possibly. And in response, we have a larger range of cybersecurity products and services, and also cybersecurity laws and regulations. And standards in this landscape help design and manage and evaluate what we do to counter the threats. Standards apply to products, but also systems and services and organizations. And they can be, and that is a very important thing, they can be either a generic or horizontal approach to cybersecurity standardization, or they can be closer to individual markets and sector markets. They can be more vertical cybersecurity standardization.
Sorry, Philippe, sorry to interrupt you. Maybe you can change your screen because we can see your comments, you know. Maybe you can swap to the full screen.
I wasn't aware of that. There's no secrets. I'm not. Well, how can I do that?
Paramètres d'affichage, you know, on the top, and you just swap, and we should see a full screen. Not yet.
But never mind.
You can come back where you were.
Is it large enough this way, or?
I cannot see your screen now. Maybe we need a few seconds. I don't see your screen now. If you have any difficulties, we can do it for you, but.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to share my screen again.
Yes. Yes, so maybe if you go, you don't need to do that, you know, go back to the screen where we could see your comments, and you just go on the top, paramètres d'affichage. No, maybe, yep. So now, yes, paramètres d'affichage, and if you do
this one,
yeah, so we don't, yeah, perfect. We don't see any comments now.
Okay, good.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
So sorry for the interruption. Where was I? Yes, I was there basically, and I was finished with that slide, I think. So now let's go into the institutional approach, and I hope you're not going to be frightened, because this is already a very simplified view of things, and this is only the institutions that have been dedicated to cybersecurity standardization. For historical reasons, in standardization, we have 3 pillars. The first one historically is electronic technology. That's the one in the middle. There's also electronic communications, and there's a general standardization pillar that basically standardizes all the rest. As far as cybersecurity goes, we have a joint committee internationally between the general and the electronic technology pillar. That's called Joint Technical Committee 1, Subcommittee SC27. And SC27 is a very important subcommittee with over 180 published standards, 70 standards being currently developed or revised. So that makes for a very long acronym, but that actually simplifies things because we have that's 2 pillars merged into one for cybersecurity at the international level. And as far as telecommunication standards go, we have SG 17 within the UATT, which is actually part of the UN. It's an entirely separate pillar of standardization. There's a second line to this table, which is the European standardization level. We see later why we need European standardization at all, because after all, why do we? But also at this level, we have just 2 main cybersecurity dedicated bodies, JTC 13, which is also common between general and electrotechnology, and a separate pillar, which is very important, ETSI Cyber in the field of telecommunications. As a very short overview of international standardization, we have, as I've already hinted, 3 main categories of standards, if you'd like. Standards for managing cybersecurity and organizations, but also systems. We have standards to design products and services. That's typically requirement standards or guidance standards. And we have evaluation standards. And we have this competitive organization between a generic approach to standardization and a sectoral approach to standardization. It's competitive because we're always tempted to go either the one or the other way. But it's also an organization because people talk and standardization committees talk, and they try to keep things reasonably harmonized. It's sadly not perfect, but they still do try to keep things reasonably organized. SC 27, which is the larger cybersecurity standards developing committee at international level, typically does generic standards, typically. But there's a variety of sectoral standards committees because basically any sector standards committee could be tempted to develop their own cybersecurity standards. And sometimes they are very relevant. I've highlighted 2 here. One is IEC-TC 65, which is on industrial automation. So we've heard a lot about OT in the first presentation this morning. This is one standard that addresses cybersecurity of industrial systems, but it is increasingly generic, IEC 62443. And the other highlight I wanted to give you is 3GPP SA3. 3GPP is the standards group that develops 5G security standards. And because of the versatility of 5G, that cuts across sectors as well. So it's initially a sectoral approach to standardization, or to standardizing cybersecurity, but it really is of value and importance for everyone. A few examples very quickly. In the management pillar, there's the ISO IC 27001 with the whole family supporting it, including 27002 on cybersecurity controls, 27005 on risk assessment. 27002 has just been revised. That's a brand new standard published, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And in this pillar, management or system approach, you also have one subfamily of 62443. In the design approach, you have all the cryptography standardization going on. That's requirements for cryptography algorithms. There's a wide variety of requirements or guidance standards for a variety of products or services. And there is a sub range of the 62443 standards family that is targeted at providing requirements for products. And in the evaluation pillar, there is the generic product evaluation family of standards known under the term common criteria. It also has a nice ISO number. And there's other evaluation standards, such as the evaluation for cryptographic modules, for instance. Moving on, why we have all this on the international level? Why do we need European standardization at all? This is a global ICT industry, cybersecurity, both from the threat point of view as from the industrial equipment point of view. This is all global. So why would we need EU standards after all? Well, the EU and largely the European Economic Area, is a specific space for regulation, and regulations in Europe have traditionally relied a lot on standards to provide means of compliance with the law, to provide legal certainty to stakeholders. And so we need to bridge the gap between international standards who exist and the European legislation that is applicable here. And there's a lot of European legislation going on, both existing and revised, or laws being revised at the moment. There's the Artificial Intelligence Act coming up. Recently, some articles, cybersecurity articles of the Radio Equipment Directive, the RED, have been activated. So there's a lot going on at the European level from the legal and legislation point of view. And the purpose of European standardization is to reuse or to extend or to complete international standards where needed to meet the EU specific needs, so that we maintain technical consistency with global standards. We do not want to fragment the world of cybersecurity, but we do want to be able to uphold the central role of standards in EU single market and policies, and we want to accommodate the new needs that are derived from new European legislation. So again, a little bit of a focus on institutions here to tell you something new about EU standardization. I've already explained that at the European level as well, we have a joint technical committee for cybersecurity and data protection shared between the general and the electro-technology pillars of standardization. And we have a separate ETCTC cybersecurity committee, originally focused on telecommunications, but actually doing much larger things now. And the news is that they are setting up, it's been a long wait, but they're finally setting up a joint technical body that will not take over the whole European cybersecurity standardization, but will have a common approach for standardizing cybersecurity of connected devices and IoT, and also devices with radio communications. That's what derives from the RED directive. And this is probably important to the energy sector, because indirectly that will impact smart meters. It might also impact industrial equipment, or I don't know, connected valves or things like that, for supply networks. So that's noteworthy, I think. And just to give you a short overview of how complex things can become once you go into how cybersecurity standardization works. This is a focus on evaluation standards only. So I'm not going to provide any focus on product design or service design requirements in this slide, or on service management on this slide, not too much, but this only EU evaluation standards, and only some of them, really. There's common criteria, which I have already talked about. There's a lightweight product evaluation standard called FITSEM, shortly to be published this year, hopefully. There is CSIP, which is an industry-led evaluation standard for platforms. And there are 2 European specifications being designed for evaluating cloud services. Where does that come from? It comes from, in part, from EU legislation, which is very much in tune with what I said just before. Based on EU law, certification schemes are being developed by ENISA, the European Cybersecurity Agency. The first scheme that has been developed is common criteria, here abbreviated as CC. And the second one, which is being finalized, is on cloud services. As I said, this is not about reinventing the wheel, but rather to reuse, extend, or complete international standardization. And in the first case, common criteria, this is 100% reuse of international standards. The European and international standards for common criteria are the same, because people don't need new standards. So there was no reason to redevelop anything. However, based on national government practices, there was a need emerging for this lightweight evaluation standard I talked about. The previous speaker talked about certification by national organizations such as ANSSI. Typically, the national government practices I'm referring to in this slide cover certification of products by national organizations. Part of what we do when we certify products rely on lightweight evaluation practices for which there was no base in standardization. We are providing this base at European level. Some standards have been developed on industry initiatives such as CZIP. But you see that international standards and national government practices, as well as industry practices, are influencing at every step or every single one of those standards. And this is not the end of the story, of course, because the ENISA is going to develop more certification schemes. This is only the beginning. The one after the cloud will be 5G, and there are more certification schemes coming up with future sectoral or vertical standards, possibly. The purpose of this slide is really to show how all of these influences interact at European level. National government practices, industry practices, EU legislation, which represents needs that have been recognized at societal level, really, in Europe. And of course, the strong influence of international standards that we do not want to depart from too much. A couple of final thoughts. I'm aware that the previous slide might have been frighteningly complex, and I apologize for that. And it's only a sample of what cybersecurity standardization looks like, but it's not just European standardization, it's also international cybersecurity standardization that's also complex, and really any field of standardization, if you really look into how things work, is a complex network of dependency, because there's a wide array of interests coming together, trying to find common ground, trying to find consensus, to finally bring the market this certainty and the information that stakeholders need. So we live in a complex world. We need to recognize that, but it is only going to be complex in as much as you do not take part in standardization. So really, if you have any stake in what's going to be written in standards, you have any stakes in using standards further down the line, please consider joining your standardization bodies, either through national standardization bodies or directly, as is the case for ETSI, for instance. It's only going to be as complex as you're going to let it be. So please go in and manifest your interests, represent them, find common ground with others. That's really an important thing to do. The more participation we are going to have, the better the standards will be. Thoughts and perspective for the future. I've talked several times about how a horizontal approach to cybersecurity standardization contrasts with a vertical approach to standardization. Both are needed. I stand firmly on the side of the debate where we think that horizontal standardization should be the most important one, because we need transparency, we need coordination, we need to have common ground even between industry branches, and we could not afford to have a cybersecurity industry that is siloed in sectors. But at the same time, if you want to be close to the markets, you want to be close to what stakeholders really need, you also need to have vertical standards. So we need to manage those in a sensible way. And that's really one of the key to future success in cybersecurity standardization. The second outlook I would like to give is we need to be focused on skills and competencies. We do have a few standards on skills and competencies for cybersecurity. Anyone working in cybersecurity, as in many other fields, will tell you that competencies and HR really are one of the main bottlenecks for developing cybersecurity. So we need to give that special attention. That's also, by the way, one of the reasons why we cannot afford to have a siloed cybersecurity industry. We cannot afford to have people we need to retrain when they move from one area of cybersecurity to another. We need to have a focus on skills and competencies going forward, both at international and European level. And I think that concludes my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Philippe, for this nice presentation. So we are on time. Maybe a quick question on your next message, where you were very positive and you were motivating people, you know, to participate to standardization body and activities. But I am, you know, in SCS cluster, where we have like maybe 50 cyber security solution small companies, you know, small SMEs with a specific expertise on that, and it's not easy for them, you know, to participate to this standardization body and to decide where to go, and even it's not easy for them to be informed about, you know, what has been decided on the European level, on the international level, etc. So what would be maybe your advice for these small SMEs?
That's quite right, and that's a constant focus of at least European standards organizations to try and reach out to SMEs, but there's so much to do still. I'm happy to report that SMEs are well represented in the European standardization, TC Cyber and TC 13. That's actually a requirement from the European Commission. And there's a lot of work being done trying to write guides and generic standards that are more easy for SMEs to work with. But there's still a lot of things to do, really. We're aware of that. It's not easy for SMEs to participate directly, but there are other ways to do that. Sometimes SMEs find it a useful approach to go through a professional organization, either at the national level or at the international level. I'm not aware of the details of the organization of every professional organization across Europe, but I know that many SMEs do get their information from their professional organizations. But I'm also glad to report that some SMEs do participate in standardization. Often these are SMEs that are very innovation focused, or evaluation focused, or sometimes their business is evaluation, so they need to have direct expertise and to derive expertise directly from the source of where the standards are written, and sometimes they contribute to that very actively. So there's a number of ways in which SMEs can be involved in standardization. It's certainly something we know we need to make even more progress on, but it has not been a forgotten matter at all. It's just that it is a real challenge for everyone.
Thank you very much for your answer. I remind our participants that you can ask a question to Philippe MAGNABOSCO and even Stanislas before. You know, there is a Q&A session at 11 a.m. So please write your question in the module on the menu Go to Webinar, and we will be able to ask them directly the question. So now it's time to Enedis, to welcome Enedis, Vincent GARCIA, Vulnerability Manager in Enedis, who will present the CERT team, so the Computer Emergency Response Team. And so we will have an overview about how they are structured and how it is working. So Vincent, are you here?
Yeah, I am here. Thank you. Can you see my screen properly?
Yes. Not yet.
Okay.
Let me.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm a bit sick, so I'm sorry if you hear me cough or something. I will also not share my screen in order to not have pity on me. I think it's better for anyone's sake. I will present you CERT Enedis in details. First of all, it's a 3 years old CERT. We are pretty new, but we did grow a lot in those 3 years. In addition, I would like to mention this is our implementation of CERT. It is our vision. Any CERT organization can differ from it. I don't think there is, I think, one organization that works best, but I think this is the one that suits us the best, and that's why we implemented it that way. I won't go into names, but I will go in details in each and every one of the teams. But we have 5 teams that compose the CERT. We have the blue team. I don't know if you know the color wheel, but we used to talk in colors. The first one is the main one, is the blue team, which is our eyes and ears. They do every detection and reaction to security incidents. Those incidents might be from the CM, so our security monitoring solution. It could be from multiple sensors. It could be from users. It could be from really anything, and also our partners. And they are the team who address those subjects. We also do have a tool team, which does every action, technical relation, could be installation of a new solution, could be monitoring, it could be configuring new sources, it could be anything that's technical around tooling. We have the purple team next, which is mine. We do anything related to anticipation. The red team also, which is more an offensive team, which try to attack us like a real attacker will do, imitate their TTPs, their technique, tactics, procedures, and try to enforce our blue team if they see them and how they can react regarding the attacks that are performed. And a bit of link between those 4 teams, which is the operational coordination team, which does the crisis management, partner relationship, and also the changes around the defense department, which we all are. I will only focus on the CERT. There is several teams working for the cybersecurity team in Enedis, but for this presentation only, I will go only on those teams. The CERT is almost 50 persons. They are all working for Enedis in on-site or remote, but which I mean it's really integrated team that works only for Enedis in order to have the most efficient service that we can. The job of the blue team, the first one is placing under supervision. We have a team dedicated to thinking about new scenarios, new rules to implement in our CM, new technologies to retrieve from the exploit, from operators, from projects, from anything in the information system. And they are working to design those things, to implement them in our tools, and then to pass all the information required to the SOC when the incident triggers. They work with the tool team in order to have everything they need from the collection and the configuration of parsers, for instance, or any technical requirement they need. Next, we have the level 1 and 2 from the SOC. We decided to not merge those 2 levels. We are, like I said, an integrated team, so we wanted all analysts to be pretty much involved at any time. They can go further in the investigation. They do not only do the triage of alerts, but really can take an incident and go through from A to Z in this. And I think it's really necessary when you have integrated team to not have the separation between the level 1 and level 2, because level 1s have tendency to, I will say, be bored more quickly. And there is a turnover quite important in this job. So that's why we merged those two levels. and they so like I said, they treat the incident, they propose action plans, and they work also on reflex sheets in order to have the newcomers know how to work properly every kind of incident. Yeah, Philippe mentioned, for instance, the ANSSI normalization, which we use in order to classify our incidents and have proper reflex sheets related to those kinds of ANSSI normalization. And finally, for the blue team, we have the CERT, which is the investigation and response. They are the most advanced defense analysts we have. They do capture memory, they do forensic and tooling related to all this kind of things. So when it's become hard for some level 1 and level 2 analysts, they can give them these the incident to have a more reliable sites on the incident. Regarding the tool team, they do like everything like innovations. It could be integrating new tools that we decided we needed to do our job. It could be POC for new solutions in order to test them and see if it suits our needs. They do the mock and MSC of every tool we need, and improve our alerts. They can interface our tools with TMDB and stuff like that in order to enrich every incident, every information we have, to have a more comprehensive vision of the whole Enedis ecosystem. And like I said earlier, they're also working with the placing under supervision team for the collection of logs and everything related to optimization of the CM, either parser, indexation, so on and so forth. Regarding the purple team, like I said, it's mainly anticipation. It could be the vulnerability management, which we trying to alert every person in the enterprise when there is a critical vulnerability. We do not address medium vulnerabilities, only the critical ones. We try to qualify them and give them more sense and do not send the alerts raw. We really try to qualify the vulnerability regarding the information system that is targeted by this vulnerability. Related also to scan vulnerability that we can then perform. There is also the threat intelligence. It could be really the intelligence of the word, meaning knowing the adversaries that exist, the tactic, technique, and procedures, which are more targeting, which attackers are likely to target the energy sector, which one are most likely to target the Europe or France country. What are they using as tools? What are their indicator of compromise, and every information that could be useful either for us as CERT or for other cyber teams, for instance, for doing risk analysis. We also have the threat part of the cyber threat intelligence. We do work with a partner that monitor for us a lot of keywords, trying to see if they are being mentioned in the dark web, for instance, when there is some leaks of ransomware groups. It could also be trying to see if there is sensitive data exposed on the internet, either by us or by partners from which we work with, because we have plenty of partners. Could be collectivities, it could be constructors of materials like automobile, really anything. We are really related to any kind of business. And trying to identify threats, for instance, like activism or anything like that. And the pendants of this cyber threat intelligence part is the hunting, which we do from within. We scan, for instance, any GitLab in Intern, any SharePoint, any network share, in order to find sensitive documents. The goal of all of these activities is to block, or at least slow down, an attacker from the outside if they are not in, and also from the inside if for any reasons they came to enter our information system. Really slow down and do not give them any information that could grant them more rights that they can have from themselves. The red team, like I said, is more offensive one. We do have multiple activities in that sense. The first one is really red team operation, when they're trying to target an objective of value, and they try to compromise it by any means that they can go from. The difference, like for instance, between a pen test, if the pen test is really targeted to a perimeter, you can attack only this in order to have access. With the red team, any means is allowed to do so. They're also trying to do tests on security solutions or in technical solutions, like in software or anything, in order to, I will say, give them a seal of security. It's just our insurance that the solution is at least have a minimum of security implemented to be approved. And they also do social engineering operation. They can do phishing, they can do putting USB in the parking, and they have a dashboard consolidating how many people clicked, how many people plugged the USB key, how many people give the information, the credentials, in order to raise awareness, security awareness to those population once the campaign is done. They do their own tooling. They do not rely on the tool team in order to have all their tools and techniques operated from their platform, because from the red team needs, we need to have access from the internet in order to be as close as an attacker could be and not work from the inside of the company. They do also the cyber crisis simulation. We tend to do them once a year at least, and they develop the scenarios, the charges, and they work with the coordination team that we will see later on to prepare all of this in order to the team to be ready for the simulation. And finally, they have the atomic rate team. So once the placing under supervision team implemented a new scenario, the red team can work with them in order to see if they can bypass the new rules, if they detect right the rule that was implemented, the try and prove method, if I may. And finally, the operational and coordination team. So they do the crisis organization, they do the cyber defense plans. Those things are, if anything happen, despite anything we implemented or the other cyber teams in Enedis implemented, if something goes wrong, how do we work? So this could be the organization part, which is the cyber crisis organization, but also the technical part. So, okay, how can I go to a continuous plan? How can I go to retrieve my Active Directory? How can I isolate this particular network zone from the rest of the data center? Everything that can be used if we need to. They also work from, they also accompany us related to compliance. Compliance could be, for instance, the GDPR or the NIS compliance. And they also have relationship and communication where they work with us for the relationship between different CERT, like CERT of energy and cyber partners. And they also do all the reporting we address to the various recipients that they are addressed. If we take a picture of which we work for obviously with our users. They have, for instance, in their mailbox, they have a button which they can contact our blue team if they see a suspicious mail. So they click on it and the mail is sent to our team for investigation, seeing that it's not phishing, if it's not a new campaign of emotet or whatever. Usually they are quite sensitive, quite aware of security risks, and they are quick to notify us once it's such campaign starts. We also have Enedis cyber network. It could be either the business lines which we work for, the regional lines, because we distribute like energy for 95% of the country, but we have regional lines everywhere, so there is plenty of sites to address, and we have a person there to work with. And obviously we have the operators, the one that maintains our information system up and running, and allow us to do our job also. Like I said, there is also these other departments of the cybersecurity teams. We also have a cyber community in the group where we can talk and share information with everyone. We do work with any external actors, could be local communities, like I said, market actors, providers and clients, because we do the connection of electricity to everyone. We do have the link key meta, which we share the information to our customers to see their consumption day to day. And obviously with multiple external actors, the ANSSI and other actors. And all those teams, all the organization, how do they work together? We did our first cyber crisis test last year, which involved every teams. The first part was the preparation of the scenario. So the red team did implement the malicious loads. They prepared the construction, they prepared the infrastructure in order to deploy those charges and monitor what they did. And once the scenario was done, we could launch the scenario. So the blue team.
Tu l'as pas traduit? Oh, pardon.
Is there any question?
No, sorry.
Okay. So regarding the detection, so the blue teams comes in through the multiple sources that we have. Like I said, could be the CM, could be the sensors, could be the users. We detect the first charges being deployed on the information system, and once we saw that the charges started to be deployed on more and more workstation, on more and more servers, we started the cyber crisis with the coordination team. From now on, the crisis lasted for 4 days with various investigation, the implementation of blocking anything malicious that we detected, block the computers, block the domains that were related to the attack, and so on. And we also created with the purple team a fake attacker trying to attack Enedis with fake information and noise in order to have a CTI watched enhanced but in a simulated way. Once we think that the incident was nearly done, the red team deployed a new load. So here we go again with a new approach, a new attack, all new scenarios that we had to investigate, block, and remediate. Once the crisis is done, we did obviously a hot feedback, and then several later we did a cold one. I really do think this is a necessary thing to do, because we reviewed our crisis management protocol and process due to this, because each time you do it, you see something you didn't think of. And there is also the human factor that is involved, and it's before being a technical crisis, it is also a human crisis. So I think it's really important to do those on a regular basis and collect the hot and cold feedback. And I think that's it for my presentation. Thanks for your attention. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them either now or during the Q&A.
Now there is a small Q&A. So I have a first question to Vincent GARCIA, Vulnerability Manager Enedis. You can all switch on your camera if you like. So you have presented, how the computer emergency response team work. We had an overview. It was interesting. And so this CERT, so this computer emergency response team have the objective of reinforcing structures defense. So what are the other structures or initiatives that you think are essential to establish for a company?
Okay. I think the most important one is related to the integration of security in projects, because there are the business lines are the main one using the information system, and that's why we are here. So I think this is really necessary to involve them. So they do everything related to risk analysis. There is also an entity which is risk management, which accepts the residual risk. We have also a team of compliance to help us related to GDPR matters and the NIS directive. So I think it's a combination of all of this, which is really necessary to have in an enterprise to have proper security management.
Thank you. Maybe Stanislas, you can switch on your camera too. Thank you. So I have a question maybe for you, but I'm not sure. So I ask it, and who is interested in can answer it. Thank you for your flexibility. So what is your view on how to securely enforce updates of inverters in the personal homes of consumers of PV installation to ensure the highest level of protection against vulnerabilities? Do you want me to repeat the question? Or no?
Okay, I understood the question. Okay, so we are talking about finally an inverter which is connected to the grid, so a smart inverter, which is a node like all other as I would say IoT, which is connected to the grid. What you must know is that an attack that would have direct control on this type of IoT or smart inverters could be dangerous on the grid, because when the attack manipulates the state of the device, it could help finally the attacker to amplify an undesirable, excuse me for the English, states of the power system, in fact. So all these devices should come finally with cybersecurity, I would say, requirements. And in those requirements, they should have also rules that would say that if we identify in the future vulnerabilities, we should be able to patch these vulnerabilities. And if it isn't done with a time that is defined, it should be shut off the grid, waiting to remediate, in fact, the vulnerability. But what is true for this specific case of the smart inverter, it's true for finally all the IoT that is newly connected to this smart grid, in fact. So it's what we call, in fact, cybersecurity by design in those products. Yeah, it's a story, in fact, of the weakest link.
Thank you. So I have another question, maybe long. I am sure that Vincent Garcia from Enedis can answer it, but I guess that Jalal Philippe should maybe complete the answer. So you know that maybe we have not discussed about this this morning, but in well-established organization, usually old legacy software that has been written 10 or 20 years ago can still be in use. It can be also very robust, but it doesn't mean modern day security standards. And the environment can be also outdated, like the hardware or the operating system. So how do you deal with such vulnerabilities? I don't know if you want
to. No, there is multiple answers. I think it's a fact that I think every company does this kind of software anywhere. Could be banks, could be energy, could be anything. We tend to isolate them more, dedicated zone, enhanced protection with sensors, with antivirus, with EDR, with anything. There is also the fact that these applications need to be rewritten, replatformed. So there is a long time rendition, which is going into new technologies and more manageable and I'll say more up-to-date things. So it's more related, I think, to the control of the environment than the correction of the equipment itself.
Okay, and maybe a last question to all of you. A very practical one. What can we make? What we, generally speaking, what can we do to make your job easier? What can be improved, maybe in the legislation, in the approach to the standardization, maybe in the investment in digital technologies, in training? We talked about skills and competences, or in your internal organization. What can be done to help you doing your job properly? It's a hard one.
Good question. I think it's about change management. A few years ago, it was only cybersecurity was only taken as technology purpose, and we see today that it's not only technology; it's a lot about people, about awareness. So I think it's more on those axes where we have to work. We have to maybe learn at school sooner what is cybersecurity when we see our children manipulating all their phone and mobile and all these technologies. So I think that the next generations must be aware sooner than we were. But I would say it's change management.
Thank you. Last question that just arrived to Philippe, if you're okay. What do you think that a global certification scheme for the energy sector will be set up at European or national level? When do you think? Sorry, when do you think that a global certification scheme for the energy sector will be set up at a European or a national level?
I do not have precise information on this. I know that this is not going to be the next one to develop after 5G. I seem to understand this. What I can tell is this. This is not something that happens overnight. It's not an administrative process where all of a sudden the European Agency for Cybersecurity comes up with a scheme and boom, it becomes basically European law. It begins with consultation, with calls for interest. There's the working groups being set up and loads of opportunities for stakeholders to participate or have some information. So I can't tell you when that's going to happen, but I can tell you that you are going to see it coming, which is already something. It's certainly one of the needed certification schemes that we have, but we are at the beginning of setting up a European landscape of certification for cybersecurity. It's both exciting and very frustrating because there is so much to do and we cannot do everything at once. If you allow me, I would also use this opportunity to reinforce what Jalal told just before this last question. Essentially, we need people to get involved in getting information, providing a view of what interests they have, sharing information when they can be shared across standards as much as everything else. And standardization is, in a sense, a collective undertaking. If we do not have the people, we're not going to do it right. The same goes for certification schemes, although that depends on the public authority. There's a lots of consultations going on. There's consultations body in existence to do that. Seize the opportunity to do this. My thought on this is going back to the first question about what I would wish for the future. In fact, I'm not in the situation where we're in a situation, I think, where politically the stakes of cybersecurity have been understood. And in many countries, certainly in France and many other European countries as well, people are, people in charge have recognized how important that is and that we need time, we need manpower, we need finance to progress on this. I can only wish that this idea was more widely shared across all European nations. And we are in this positive situation right now. What is going to happen in 2 or 3 years when political priorities change? Ideally, we should put that on the kind of political level where this priority does not change, because this cyber threat is not going to go away.
Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you to Vincent also that he's sick. He reminds us, like Emmanuel Dotaro, that we are still in the winter and the COVID or flu are still among us. So now let's switch to Wavestone Startup Radar. So we are welcoming Laure DUCOUSSO and Clément FREOUR, Cybersecurity Senior Consultants in Wavestone, and they will present now their recent analysis on the French cybersecurity innovation ecosystem. So welcome Laure, welcome Clément. If you want to share your presentation.
Hello, Fabienne. I share or not?
Yes, you do.
Yes, okay.
Diaporama maybe, yeah. Full screen. Would be ideal. Yes. Perfect.
It's okay.
Yes. I guess that Laure, you have
okay.
your microphone is off.
Yeah.
You have yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. Clément, do you want to switch on your camera too, or like as you
No,
want?
because you know, my connection is not so good. So,
Okay, perfect. So hello all of you. Welcome to this presentation dedicated to the French cybersecurity startups ecosystem, as it has just been said. So today our speaker are Clément, senior consultant at Wavestone and energy sector specialist, and I, Laure DUCOUSSO, cybersecurity senior consultant at Wavestone. For those who don't know Wavestone, Wavestone is one of the European leader of independent consulting firm with more than 3,500 consultants worldwide. So nowadays, in response to new challenge brought by the rise in cybercrime, Wavestone supports its customer in securing their digital transformation from strategic phases to operational implementation. And we also offer an appropriate response in event of an attack. So now let's get to the subject for today. So for now, a few years, we follow the evolution of the cybersecurity startup and innovation ecosystem in France, but also in several other countries like US, UK, and more recently, Luxembourg. But for this time, let's focus on France and year 2021. So first of all, what do we consider a startup in our radar? A startup is a company that exists for less than 7 years and have less than 35 employees. So pretty good news, despite the pandemic, when we have a look over the ecosystem, we can see that the startup has faced the sanitary crisis pretty well. The ecosystem now consists in 150 startups dedicated to cybersecurity topics. Between June 2020 and June 2021, we have witnessed 19 cybersecurity startup creations. So despite the fact that the environment was not fully facilitating, we can say, 18 entrepreneurs had launched their businesses during this time, and 13 scale-up. So scale-up is a new category, followed by Wavestone for now 2 years. Scale-up are companies that are working in the cybersecurity field, obviously, with a fast-growing business. So that means that those companies comply with one of the following statements: held 10 million euro fundraising over the past 3 years. Have the company which have a revenue between 2.5 and 5 million euro, with annual revenue growth about 50% over the past 3 years, or company with revenue above 5 million euro with annual revenue growth above 25% over the past 3 years. We consider fiscal year. So overall, the ecosystem is thriving. So both in number, if you take a look at the past few years, but especially in size of the company. So the startup are now hiring. You can go to the next slide, Clément, please. Thank you. So this is the global ecosystem. All the startup logo are here for this year. As you can see, there are a lot of cybersecurity topics in this radar, including some big topics like crypto or cyber awareness, endpoint protection, application security. So this topic match with cybersecurity challenges company have to face nowadays, and it is evident that some topics are more attractive than others, as we can see that in some topics there are a lot of actors, so we don't have a lot of time, so we can discuss this maybe later in detail if you want. At the bottom, you can see the scale up as mentioned before. So the potential French unicorn, as the French government is looking for. So to conclude about this slide, we see that the ecosystem is globally maturing, and this year we have witnessed some state initiative in France that matter, with some initiative like France Relance or the Cyber Campus in Paris, with the creation of the first French cybersecurity dedicated incubator. So we hope to welcome a new startup in the next in the 2022 radar, and new startup and new scale up. So as we today focus on France and 2021, let's talk more about the startups. So we've seen that they are working on a lot of various subjects, but now let's talk about where they operate and from where. So first, the localization of the startup ecosystem in France. So it remained mainly Paris-centric, as 63% of the startup on our radar are located in Paris for now. However, we can see that there are some local dynamics and some new areas are emerging, often like it's relying on strong academic and industrial sector. For instance, Lyon and Rennes. So thus the French startup and scale-up ecosystem, also still Paris-centric, is beginning to thrive all around France. And so startups are all around France, but operating and have clients all over the world. So first, the startup ecosystem mainly focus on Europe and in France at start, but now the startup are operating in various countries, especially Germany, Switzerland, Spain, and UK, and the UK. And now that the market has reached a certain maturity level, some startups are now targeting the American and Asian market. So it's a good indicator that the market is doing pretty well. You can change, Clément, please. Thank you. So over this generic information and mapping about the startup, what is interesting to see in our radar are the movement of the startup that are part of our radars in 2020. As I say before, the ecosystem is maturing, and so if we start at bottom left, there is a form of maturity that unfortunately happens, that is liquidation. So we have really increase in this number of liquidation in this year radar. For some, it has been difficulty selling their product because the product didn't meet its market, and for other, it has been a problem with the investor during the peak of the COVID crisis. So let's see next year what will happen. So what is also interesting to note is that at the extreme opposite, structure that grow really quickly, so at the top right, those companies have exceeded 35 employees in less than 7 years. So we call them the fast riser. They show that fast growth is possible in cybersecurity. So you can check on the logo. We will continue to follow this company, and they could become major actor in the cybersecurity industry in the following years. At the bottom right, you can see those who make grow a little slower. Their solutions are obviously not bad, but they are going a little slower, and they also need to be followed in the next year. And at the top left are the buyouts with two special cases, Screen and Alcid, acquired respectively by the American firm Datadog and Tenable. So about that, it's a share feeling on the market, as we would have liked them to remain French for sovereignty, sorry for my accent, question, and maybe become unicorn, as they had the potential to. But to stay positive, we can say that this buyout allowed the French ecosystem to shine at an international scale, and it showed that investments are possible in the French ecosystem, in the French cybersecurity ecosystem. And last but not least, it creates a new generation of entrepreneurs who will set an example to be followed by the rest of the ecosystem. Okay, so now a little point about the fundraising event. So the ecosystem is, as I said before, gaining in maturity and very dynamic, and has experienced great fundraising over the last years. So you should know that if you compare the fundraising of 2020 and 2021, we are in the same spirit, around 100 million euro in total. But there is a difference in the timing. The fundraising in 2020 was quite linear over the year, while the first half of 2021 has faced a strong acceleration in fundraising. So we hope to see this dynamic to continue next year. To give you some figure, so the fundraising of the ecosystem is quite comparable with what is happening in the rest of Europe. In the UK, where the market is maybe more mature, there are the same, almost the same number of fundraising, but the volume may be more important. And but we still have to improve our capacity in fundraising. For example, US and countries like the US and Israel are still ahead with oh, sorry, I have a little problem with my computer. So the US and Israel are still ahead with in terms of of total amount, and it's a really an improvement pace for the French ecosystem in order to create the famous French unicorn. And so what is needed is investor to go for more significant series like in Israel or in the US. Your turn, Clément.
Yes. So let me show you this slide about the focus of some booming sector. Just to introduce this slide, the current situation with COVID-19 and geopolitics issues, the strong rise of telecommunication, digital technology, and succession of attacks have helped to raise awareness of cybersecurity issues in the market. So 21% of startups say that the crisis have provided them the new opportunities, in particular in customer demand have been particularly strong in the following area. So the first one is threat anticipation. We can quote Sequoia, a cyber threat intelligence platform, or another way who are monitoring threat related to social engineering of employees. The second area is incident response with Malizen and Stanjeby, which are incident response platform. There's also the French style ADIR endpoint detection and response offered by the Arfang Lab, Tetris, and to some extent Glimpse. More and more startups are targeting the SME sector with turnkey solution to manage a security governance, like augmented CISO, Finasoft, Pro Compliance, or platform vulnerability audit, like Proactive or Patrols. In the last area, awareness, we can quote Mantra and avantcliquer.com, which are fake phishing solutions. So finally, and surprisingly, few startups are working on the promising topic like cloud security or security of encrypted flow. What we notice in the 2021 edition of the radar is that startups tend to reinvent existing security solution without bringing major innovation, 62% versus 33%. As a result, they find it difficult to stand and grow quickly, except for those that are commercially agile. So we think that closer tie with research ecosystem and large company as a cyber campus with Hello should be positive, be enabling them to identify more innovative positioning, more in line with the market, and by giving them more visibility. If less national investment is well structured to support during the first years of life, the coming year should see the market become even more organized and sized to support them to raising funds reaching several tens of millions of euros, and ideally then 100 million of euros. So Laure, I'd let you conclude.
Yeah, thank you, Clément. So this presentation is now coming to an end. We invite you to join us at Vivatech 2022 for the presentation of the Wavestone Cybersecurity Radar 2022 edition. So to keep you waiting, you can still find all the information and for some topic, a more detailed presentation on the link of the code. As we had a limited time for this presentation, we cannot answer all questions now, but feel free to reach us out by email, and we will be pleased to discuss with you about the startup ecosystem. So thank you for your attention and see you soon.
Many thanks, Laure and Clément, for your presentation. Maybe a quick question. maybe I guess it was in your slide number 4. You know, there was on the map. You know, the France mapping of the French cybersecurity. So I understand that it was the industrial players and the academic ones. Yes. So we didn't see anything. We didn't see anything on located close to Nice and Sophia Antipolis. You know. Even we were a bit surprised because even on the academic side, we thought that, yes, we know that near close to Marseille and Toulon, we have some key cybersecurity players, but around Nice and Sofia, there's nothing.
Yeah, it might be because the startup on that we consider only the startup that are in our radar, and over the years, as we have presented our radar in different events, some startup had come to us to say, okay, we exist too, and so we would be pleased to complete the teamwork of this radar with startup coming to say hello. And indeed, the Nice area is a booming area for IT, and we are sure that we are going to meet new cybersecurity startup in this area soon.
Okay, thank you very much, Laure, Clément. Thank you. Can we download your analysis or not? This document, or is it available?
Yeah, it's available.
Maybe you can send, you know, the link, and we can share it with the participants. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now let's welcome Marielle Campanella, Head of European Projects in STS Cluster, that will share with us a European project, Secur-IT, an open one, that can be an opportunity to finance your security projects. So Marielle, if you are here, yeah. I share, yes. I let you.
Good morning. Hello, Fabienne. Can you see my screen properly?
Yes.
Yes, great. So thank you very much. Indeed, while we are talking about startups, SMEs, innovation ecosystems, and also cybersecurity, we would like to point out a funding opportunity that could be relevant for SMEs in the domain of digital security, which is the Secur-IT project, in which Pôle SCS is a partner together with a Systematic and 6 other clusters and entities. So Secur-IT is a European project, so which is funded by the European Commission, that aims at supporting innovation in the domain of security, so both physical security and digital security. And concretely, we have the delegation from the European Commission in order to organize open calls for the distribution of at least 75% of our budget, namely more than 3.7 million euros for 42 smaller projects. So it means that 2 open calls will be launched during the lifetime of Secur-IT, dedicated specifically to SMEs in the domain of security. So the first open call is currently open with the deadline on the 26th of April. And our goal is here to provide a financial support under the form of a grant, a lump sum, to 21 projects that aim at developing innovative digital solutions applied to the domain of security. So each project shall be developed by a team of at least 2 SMEs. So the funding is specifically for SMEs. Coming from EU member states or associated countries in the Northern Europe program. And at least one of these 2 SMEs must be a supplier of digital solutions. And we will fund 2 types of projects. On one hand, prototyping projects, and on the other hand, demonstration project. And the funding could be up to 88,000 euros for the two SMEs. So each project will have to address at least one of the 3 domains of Secur-IT, namely the protection of sensitive infrastructure And here, this is really in relationships with the today's subjects. And for instance, protection of a power plant from regarding cybersecurity attacks is right in the scope of Secur-IT. The second subject is about the resilience in case of disaster, particularly natural disasters. And the third subject is about the protection of public spaces, in particular in the case of major events. So in case you are an SME and you are interested in such funding opportunities, so you can find here the product website and the application website where you can submit your application until the 26th of April. There will be several steps in the funding scheme, and the winners will expect to start their project during this summertime till the summer next year. If you wish to know more, I also inform you that we will launch the very final info session with the webinar, so next week on Wednesday, on the 6th of April. So I do invite you to register on the Secur-IT website if you're interested to know more precisely the eligibility criteria, how to apply, and you have also the possibility to pitch your project idea, which would be particularly useful in case you are looking for a project partner. And don't hesitate to contact us also if you are interested in this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Marielle, for this presentation. So now it's over. You are all waiting for the results. Who are the winners? So now it's up to you, Valentina, to share with us who are the 3 winners of the challenge.
Thank you very much, Fabienne. Yes, it is time to discover the Cyber4Energy Award. So just a few words about the contest. It was a contest which was open to all French and international startups and SMEs having implemented innovative cybersecurity solution in the energy sector. And we had 3 categories. 1 category is for providers, 1 category is for startups or SMEs from the energy sector, and a 3rd category, which is the coup de cœur of the jury. And we had the selection done yesterday with the jury, and we have the pleasure to welcome today the 3 finalists, 3 winners, who are o.CETRAC, o.SCPTime, and o.WIT. So we are going to let them pitch now, so you will discover their solutions, and I'd like to call them in alphabetical order. So o.CETRAC will be the first company to pitch. So Mr. Delois, are you with us? And you are able to share your screen for the presentation normally. And you have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Valentina. I think it's working, should be working at least.
It is.
Incredible. I'm always surprised when it works. Well, we're very honored to be nominated for this prize, or to win, I don't know what, but that's we're both very honored and very happy. I will try and show you in less than 3 minutes now what o.CETRAC is. o.CETRAC is a technology that provides nodes to data networks like switches, gateways, remote data concentrators, and systems, or even, we'll see that later, diodes. The main difference between what we do and what is in the market is our approach is full of hardware. It's FPGA based, but the most important thing is we don't use the CPU of the FPGA. There is no firmware, hence there is no process, hence the behavior of the switch is not modifiable from remote, and hence we have some native cybersecurity properties. And that's what we claim. We are not a cybersecurity active company, but we provide cybersecurity by nature. I will give you 2 examples of what can be done with o.CETRAC in the OT. And so first thing is a production plant, and you can I would say microsegment the network and hide or protect the production part of the network behind the o.CETRAC switch, which will work both at the multi-protocol switch and as a firewall. The second idea we have, and the second thing we can do, you can use CETRAC as a diode. A diode is widely used in the energy sector. However, diodes have three drawbacks. First, they are very difficult to implement. It's complicated to do. Second, it's even more complicated if you want to use TCP, because then you need a return way which the diode by design doesn't provide. And third, they're very expensive. And so we provide a hardware diode which is quite cheap, which is easy to implement, and which has which enables the return path for TCP. So that's it. I have 13 seconds to tell you that CETRAC is 100% hardware. There's no firmware, no processes. It is configurable, but not modifiable from remote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Serge. And we can now switch to the second presentation of o.SCPTime. So, Mr. Theo, Sebastian Theo, are you ready to pitch?
Absolutely. Just
Perfect.
put on diaporama. Can you see my screen?
Yes, and if you can put your camera on as well.
My bandwidth is not so fantastic, so if I can.
Okay, no problem then.
After maybe. Just before starting, I just would like to thank again the jury and the organizers for giving us the opportunity to highlight our technology and to talk about the reliability of time synchronization, which is becoming a major threat around the world. So let's start. To better understand the topic, we first need to remind that accurate and reliable time is essential and present everywhere. Most of the industries or systems cannot run properly or just can't afford to get out of synchronization. As we are living in a digital world, every transaction, every log has to be correctly time-stamped. And in most of the case, we use GPS, which creates a huge dependence. And this dependence has become a danger, specifically for critical infrastructures, such as energy sectors. So what's the issue there? In fact, all the reference time sources are highly vulnerable. Whatever we are using satellite systems, radio frequency, or public NTP sources. We are talking here about major issues like the total blackout in Shanghai Harbor in 2019, for example, or many interruptions at airports, and maybe recently with the events in Ukraine, you have seen or you have heard about Viasat spoofing that creates a huge disruptions on wind turbines. So o.SCPTime addresses these issues by setting up an infrastructure and a service to broadcast the legal time of a country using a secure, certified, precise and traceable time signal. The legal time is UTC, coming from atomic clocks from French National Observatory of Paris. We are using 3 international patents that we have developed with a French consortium composed of the time frequency labs, academics and industrials, and we are able to disseminate a fully traceable and resilient time signal for our customer. Also, I would like to highlight that o.SCPTime is 100% French and is also designed using the French Metrology Institute LNI ATTS certification. So o.SCPTime is very easy to implement. The service is provided through software only or a bundle solution using hardware to ensure a higher level of resilience and accuracy. Instead of putting 30,000 euros countermeasures each time you've got to secure a material or systems or antennas from GPS spoofing, our concept is much more flexible and cost efficient as we broadcast the traceable time signal and we control it. So mainly critical infrastructure have their own network, so that we are also able to implement easily our system either in closed networks or public networks. Let's focus now on energy sector. The need of secure, resilient and traceable time is everywhere, from power plants to power transmission, substation management, security operation centers. It's mainly used for event sequencing, monitoring, incident recorders, power line protection management, and telecoms. So in practice, SCPTime addresses many of the issues that energy sector is facing and has even much more value added than cybersecurity only. Indeed, SCPTime is resilient to difficult environments, is ensuring MRO and service continuity, and is also providing relevant information thanks to the supervision systems and the traceability. Thanks again for listening.
Thank you, Sebastian.
I haven't exceeded, sorry, the time limit.
Yeah, just a little bit. Okay. Thank you very much. And we pass then to the last company to pitch. It's the company o.WIT. So Alain Franco, yes, we can see your screen, but this is the speech. So if you can share your presentation. Perfect. But we can't hear you, so maybe you have to switch on your microphone. Perfect. Yes, we can hear you very well and we can see you.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Hello, everyone. I am Alain Franco, head of the digital department of o.WIT. And now, that's not the good slide. Okay. And o.WIT is a French industrial company, done 38 years. And your job is to control and remotely operate smart building and smart infrastructure for the energy and the security. And you can see in the slide all the process with the data collection, transmission, storage, processing, restitution, and interpretation of smart building and smart infrastructure. And this cycle is for all equipments in edge computing and cloud computing. For o.WIT is a very strategical case. The cybersecurity is an important issue for customers because it's strategic for the market, and many corporates are implicated in the cybersecurity. Our owners are implicated. And now cybersecurity is completely part of our strategy. I developed this methodology. Is the first method. This approach is upscaling our own teams with the specification and the certification ANSSI for a certain group of employees of o.WIT, and the continuous update knowledge in the cybersecurity. You see the iteration process with the audit of cybersecurity of solutions regarding the ANSSI best practice and the OWASP because you use the open web server. And this knowledge and this deployment permits the roadmap development. And this is, I say, it's iteration cycle. And after, when this cycle is finished for the product, we dissemination the knowledge for all employees and support your customers. Okay, now your feedback. You have the culture of cybersecurity is completely integrated in your company. Only in 2 years, approximately. Now you advise our customers, and you want the new markets with this strategy. It's very complicated in the present to arbitrate and between the cybersecurity and the operating constraints of your customers because the operating constraints is it's very important in for the development and continuation of development permanently, and this is complicated for your customers, but okay. It's instead arbitrate this one. Okay, thank you for your attention, and see you soon. I am available if you have a question about this presentation.
Thank you, Alan. And let me call all of you to switch on your camera to discover the winners. So I don't have a drum roll, but here's for the first category, which was focusing on cybersecurity provider solution for the energy sector, and the winner is o.SCPTime. Congratulations! And can you switch on your camera, please, Sebastian? And here's the prize, which is composed of mentorship at the Enedis Cybersecurity division for 3.5 days. 3 half days, sorry. You would have an access for 1 year to the events of Systematic Paris Region Cluster, and 1 mentorship by Visconti partners. Can you hear us, Sebastian? Yes. I hope you don't have problems to hear that you are the first winner in category 1.
Sorry, my micro was off. I'm sorry. So yes, I hope you can see me, and we are very grateful for that prize. And again, thank you to the jury and the organization. We're very excited to participate to the events in Systematic Paris Region, and also the mentorship by Visconti partners and Enedis Cybersecurity division is a very good present for us. And yes, we're very happy. I will transfer to the team as well. And thank you again for the organization.
You're welcome, Sebastian. And remember, you will also have an interview on our website, cybersecurity.com, as well. This is the prize for all the companies. So we will put you in touch with the 3 sponsors of the prizes. And we can now pass to the second category, which was dedicated to companies of the energy sector who had implemented a cybersecurity strategy, which is particularly exemplary. So the winner is, for the second category, WIT. So Alain, can you switch on your camera? I do the same with mine, maybe.
Yes, normally you see me. Okay.
Yeah,
and the sound is good. Okay, thank you for this trophy, and thank you at all the events and all the organization of this event. Thank you for WIT, and felicitations to the other company.
Yes, thank you. And the prize consists in 1 consultancy support and the follow-up service from the SES cluster. And you will also have an access for 1 year to the events of Systematic Paris Regions cluster, and also the mentorship from Visconti partners. So same for you, we have the interview on our website, and we put you in touch with the different sponsors. And to all of you, we also have a physical trophy, so we'll send them to you later on. And last but not least, we have the coup de cœur of the jury for the 3rd categories, and no surprises, it will be o.CETRAC. So Serge, you will have for this award a complete assessment service by Capenergies cluster, and you will have also an access for 1 year to the events of Systematic Paris region.
That's really great. Thank you very much. Thank you to the jury. Of course, congratulations to the other winners. I think I know one of them, but so we're really happy. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And we can now close the the webinar. So we would like to thank you all for your attention, and thanks all the organizers, the clusters, Capenergies, Image Réseau, Pôle SCS, Systématique, Enedis, Smart Energy Alliance. We thank you our sponsors, Enedis, Vertigas, Thales, our public partners and institutional partners, our support and press. Thank you, all of you. I don't mention all the names, but it is a collective effort to organize such an event. And my takeaway message would be that we've seen it today, that cybersecurity, it is also a collective effort, and you have possibilities as technological solutions, innovations, but also organizational measures, and you have information sharing means, and standardization is also fundamental and essential, and all of these measures need to work in harmony with one another to get the cybersecurity really effective and protect us. So I don't know if Fabienne wants to say a few words to conclude.
No, nothing to add. It's perfect. Just to repeat what you said, that in fact innovative technology acceleration can be improved thanks to clusters. I know we are 5 clusters in this event, so we are there to boost innovation on cybersecurity solution for the energy sector and for other industrial players too. And also another message that was key today was the development of the cyber culture, in our teams, and skills and competences. That's another topic we should work on. So thanks to everybody, and we wish all our sick speakers to get well soon also. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.